Hi everyone, I'm Jen from EECA. Just a disclaimer, I'm a lawyer and a project manager. I'm not an engineer. Mike basically disparages non-engineers, but I guess my message to you is that lawyers and project managers do have a role in delivering energy efficiency projects, and we are, really interested to see what you guys can do with your technology. But at the same time, we have some insights into how to get stuff going in the marketplace. In search of love. C couched this presentation as a love story. I can tell you that at times it felt more like a battle. We were going into war. I can say now it is a love story. It's my personal love story. I love this program. I think it's a great success. But it started in 2009, where the new national government, as part of its job creation initiative, committed $347 million over 4 years to insulate over 180,000 homes. New Zealand homes, as C has referenced, are very cold and damp. We think we live in the South, we think we live in the Pacific, really we live in the South Pacific, and we have an estimated 900,000, maybe more homes in this country that are under-insulated, which means they're cold and damp. The goals of the program, when it was initiated, were very much around economic growth, job creation, and building a sustainable insulation industry. It was about growing the industry, getting manufacturing jobs, and getting small to medium-sized businesses delivering insulation. There had been insulation programs before, very successful ones, but they had been relatively low scale. This was the first one where we were aiming to insulate 50 to 60,000 homes a year. I've couched all my love stories with quotes from various sources. My first quote is, "The course of true love never did run smooth." You think insulation in a ceiling and under a floor is a very simple proposition. All we were doing was offering grants for homeowners to have a service provider enter their home and install insulation. Simple? Not so simple. A house is a system, a house is a living creature. They're all different, and they all have different wiring, roof condition, space, indoor conditions. So the first thing that we faced was an enormous challenge, bringing the insulation industry up to an acceptable standard of safety and effectiveness. Now, insulation can interfere or interact with electrics in the ceiling, creating fire hazards. There's potential to cause dampness problems. So our first major challenge was working hard with our insulation industry to get their guys trained up to an acceptable standard. It required developing materials for them to use, on-site guidance, training, manuals. We had to enforce our contracts with our providers very strictly. The insulation industry sometimes thought we were beating up on them, but at the end of the day, it was an enormous challenge, but also an enormous opportunity, which has really paid off because the insulation industry now is delivering and accepts and owns up to the fact that it's delivering an exceptionally high quality insulation retrofit, guaranteed safety and effectiveness for the most part, which is delivering real outcomes for New Zealanders. So that was our first major hurdle. This is just a cautionary tale in the middle of my love story. If you don't enforce these kind of quality standards, you can end up with a situation that happened in Australia. They launched a similarly large-scale insulation retrofit program, but with a different delivery model where there were less controls on the quality of the installation, and it resulted in some deaths of installers. It resulted in hundreds of house fires. It resulted in, I think, a $400 million bill to fix the problem, and it resulted in a minister losing his job. So the cautionary tale is that the sort of controls that we thought were so important actually were really important, and it's been a great lesson for us to have borne out. Unfortunate for the Australians, but hopefully they can take some lessons from our great program. Our next challenge, love is blind and lovers cannot see. Insulation to people in this room, and I know there's a lot of people in this room that have been in this industry for a long time and know what I'm talking about, But the everyday New Zealander, when we started this, I don't think understood what insulation did, what a warm, dry house meant to them, what health benefits could accrue from being in a warm house. So we had an enormous challenge at first to, I guess, raise awareness and raise people's knowledge about insulation, why they needed it, whether they had it or not. People don't know. People hadn't been in their roof space. They didn't know if they were insulated or not. And really, our information campaigns were so broad. Over here is a brochure that we put out in Māori for Māori communities, talking about the benefits of insulation. In the middle there was an event with the then Minister of Energy, Phil Heatley, with a service provider. So we got the service providers involved in really promoting their own product and their own service. We had a lot of media coverage, but all of this stuff had to work in partnership. This wasn't just us marketing or trying to sell New Zealanders, the product. It was about all the different partners telling the story of why insulation was a great thing. And it started out as a message, you need insulation. But as the results of some of the evaluations came through, our message changed. And it changed from, you need insulation, to we can help you pay for insulation. And now the message very much is, insulation will make your family healthier and more comfortable in your home. So not only did we learn a lesson about having to promote and raise awareness, we also learned a lesson about how messaging changes in response to the market. We started off with a populace that didn't have any idea what we were talking about. Now we have over 275,000 households that have told us they are ready and willing to insulate. Doesn't mean they'll do it, but they know about it and they know why they would do it. My last point there, love begets love. For all our information campaigns, the market research that we've done shows that word of mouth is the strongest impetus for people to act. We can put out information, our service providers can advertise, but at the end of the day, it's Joe Bloggs down the road telling his neighbour how much warmer and more comfortable he feels in his home that is really selling insulation. Not that the information campaigns weren't, useful in raising awareness, but it was also sort of builds on that message I was saying about the quality of the retrofit. People needed to tell a good story to their neighbours. We absolutely couldn't have done this just as a government agency. This whole program really involved partners. I know I've talked about the service providers who did put a lot of investment and energy into upskilling their workforce and in delivering a better service. But we also needed people to help us overcome some of the financial barriers. So our subsidy program operated by offering a partial grant. You got a subsidy towards the cost of insulation. But as we all know, the main barrier for most people to interventions of this kind is a financial one. People need access to finance. And so one of the key sort of planks of the program is third-party funding. And it comes from a number of sources, and I'll talk about them all. One of the key ones is councils. I know there are representatives here from Auckland and Wellington City Councils. They're both delivering what we call voluntary targeted rates. And that works where the homeowner goes to one of our service providers, gets an insulation retrofit, our subsidy comes off, but there's still a chunk of money to be paid. And what they do is they apply to their council. That chunk of money is applied to their rates, and they can pay it off over 10 years, quarterly, and it makes it for a very, very simple and easy way to afford insulation. And the councils have been an enormously valuable partner in offering this alternative finance mechanism. We've also got the major banks offering top-up mortgages, so a homeowner with a mortgage can have an insulation retrofit through our program and put the remainder of the costs not covered by our grant on their mortgage. So the banks and the councils have seen the value of what we are trying to achieve in our community and have supported it with money. They've put their money where their mouth is, and that's been an enormously helpful mechanism. People struggle in New Zealand to afford things like insulation, and this has been an immensely valuable part of our program. The other important element of our program has been reaching the people that need it most. And that's been done in two ways, but they're interrelated. So I talked about third-party funding. The banks and the councils offer people finance for their insulation, but there are segments of our community that no matter how much support you give them cannot afford insulation. And inevitably and unfortunately, those are the people that need insulation the most. We have a real problem with child poverty in this country, but its energy relevance is that a cold, damp house has really serious health implications, particularly for children, the elderly, and people already vulnerable to cold-related illness. So low-income families suffer disproportionately from the kinds of illnesses that can be prevented with insulation, but they have the least ability to pay. This quote here means, effectively, we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat. And one of the key elements of our program, and one that we could not do without, is the contribution from community trusts, energy trusts, charities, lines companies who have contributed not only funding to insulation retrofits just as a donation, but has also given us access to communities. So third-party funders have been immensely helpful in delivering the program, not only delivering the money we need to pay for these things, but also the kind of access and credibility that we need in some low-income communities. So, for example, there's a consortium in Northland. Northland's for those of you who aren't New Zealanders, Northland's a relatively low-income rural region of New Zealand. It's not got a lot of economic activity happening. Housing's quite poor, so it's a real target area for us. And there's a consortium led by a number of businesses and trusts that has contributed, I think, $15 million to insulate houses in Northland. And that is not just a monetary contribution, that is on the ground grassroots support so that people are available to go into someone's home, and someone who might be a bit ashamed of the home, and talk to them about insulation and how their home can be made healthier and safer for their kids if they insulate. So third-party funders are close to our hearts, I think, Mike, it's fair to say. They have allowed us not only to afford what we're doing for low-income households, but also to reach the people that might, not want people coming into their homes, especially not from the government. One of our main promotional activities was TV advertising on what we call the Energy Spot, which is a sort of segment that's on at night time when families are sitting down to dinner, and it tells them about easy things they can do in their home. And I was saying how the message changed from here's insulation through to it'll make you healthier and happier in your home. This is an example of the sorts of stories that we wanted to tell.
A tent can keep the rain off, but it can still get cold inside. A sleeping bag keeps you warm and comfortable by trapping heat in. Insulation in your home works the same way and makes a real difference. But don't just take my word for it.
This house used to be like an icebox. Now we don't lose that warmth. Once it gets inside the house, it stays inside the house.
Cam had asthma, and after the insulation was put in, dramatic improvement. So instead of lying in bed listening to him cough all night, we had good night's sleep, both him and us.
You could add the cost of insulation to your rates or mortgage, with repayments from as little as $7 a week.
Go to energywise.govt.nz now.
What you used to suffer through, you don't have to put up with anymore.
Hugely better family environment. It's one that we can enjoy rather than endure.
Effective insulation and heating can mean fewer days with colds and sickness, which is better for all of us.
So I know we've got people from Motu here, but we did, or in fact MB did an independent evaluation of the program, showing a better than 4-to-1 benefit cost ratio and showing more than $1 billion of benefit over the lifetime of the measures. I'm saying two different things here. I guess on one hand I'm saying it's really important to tell the human story about why a program like this can deliver good things, but it's also been immensely valuable to have a dollar figure around the benefit that we're delivering. And I can tell you that 99% of that $1 billion is health benefit, not energy. So energy services, energy savings are virtually negligible. What this means is people are getting better service from their energy, and it shows that it manifests itself in health benefits. So We're an energy efficiency organisation, but our flagship program, the government's flagship program, is one that's delivering tangible health benefits. That has led to a new refocused program, so another investment. Treasury was on board. Glad to say that if you can demonstrate the value of what you're doing, they'll write the checks. A new program of $100 million over 3 years, which is solely focused on low-income, vulnerable people, which means households on a low income with children, the elderly, and people vulnerable to cold-related illness. So we have more work to do, but having these relationships and these structures set up around our program has resulted in further investment in what we do. My key message is that government can't do this alone, and I don't think the community sector can do this alone, and I don't think banks are going to offer it alone. So what it requires is a whole network of partnerships to deliver really tangible outcomes. We can't do it alone. We can't do it without the service providers who have invested in marketing, selling and training under the scheme. We've got funders and we've got groups helping us reach the most vulnerable people. So my main lesson is that love conquers all. And these are a few things. This is a drawing of a happy family that gets sent to us. When I started this, I said it felt like war sometimes because setting up the program involved, some hurdles and some challenges. But every time you get a card from a kid with a happy house and a smiling family, it makes it all absolutely worthwhile. A few little testimonials. I think it's really important to remember that at the end of the day, all of this talk of money and investment is actually leading to some real benefits for households. I like this one. The floor is warm, it's not freezing anymore, it's cozy, it's really, really lovely. And another one, I can tell this is from an old lady. You get to know the handwriting and the style. So this is an old lady who thanked us and is looking forward to a warmer winter. And then this one really hits home. Not being in a financial position to even consider having it done, you have given us peace of mind, and we now no longer dread the approaching winter months. So, next steps. That's a diagram that shows a yellow dot for every house we've insulated. We're at 250,000 to date. We exceeded the original target by more than 40,000 retrofits. As I say, we've got 3 more years to go. But I guess this is both a thanks to all our partners, without whom we couldn't have delivered the program, and also a challenge to those of you who aren't involved and who might want to become involved to come and have a chat and see how we can work together to deliver better, warmer, safer homes for all New Zealanders. Thank you.